Mountain, and this is the Where's Mind podcast. It's December, babies. In December, it's practically the end of the year when it's December, no? I feel every time December comes, I feel like the year is over. It's time to start preparing for next year. But we should be already preparing for next year because it's December 4th today. What are your New Year's resolutions, everyone? Every single year since 2022, I have given the year to come a theme before the year begins. Because in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, I noticed that at the end of the year, I spoke to myself, like myself and my thoughts at the end of the year and see what I would like sum up the whole year as. In 2022, I realized that I could just start off with a fresh theme every year or revisit old themes. Like right now, it's like just 4 years in, so I don't need to reuse themes yet. So 2022 was promiscuity. And the reason why 2022 is called promiscuity is because I wanted to be promiscuous. I wanted to be outside. You were gonna see me in every club. Have I been to a club recently or ever? No. 2023 was discipline, and that's when I came on the podcast at the first year of this podcast, and I told you every single thing I did every 3 months. I came here to audit the theme of the year. 2024 was self discipline because I realized that even with all of my auditing in 2023, I still noticed that I needed to develop myself more and more. And I came on here last year as well and like audited myself every single like I think every 4 months, I think, yeah, time. And 2025's theme was called improvements because I noticed that both discipline and self-discipline did not stick. So it's like I don't want to like bombard myself with like a lot to like think of at once. So if I can like improve zero point 0.1 every single day, that's a win in my opinion. The theme for next year is very unique because it's going on a different path. It's different from every other year, but similar in a way. The first year of this whole ordeal, I started off with promiscuity, just one word. And then discipline, just one word. Self-discipline, I would classify that as one word. And then improvements. And 2026 theme is called actively choosing. What does it mean to live a passive life? That's like the full theme. But the theme of the year is called actively choosing, and the subtitle is what does it mean to live a passive life? Because for the longest time, I've noticed that I don't really think I've been living my life. I think, I think I've wanted my life to to reflect what I think other people think my life should be, if that makes sense. Since I was a tiny person to me 3 months ago, I think in the last 3 months I have truly evaluated myself and like noticed that I truly do not know who that person is. I truly don't know who I am without like the constant performance of this character. And I don't know. I don't know. It's like very existential, I know, but like at the same time, I think I'm not trying to like not put the blame on myself. I think a lot of things I've done in my life has been what I think Sally Rooney, for example, would enjoy seeing me do rather than what I would want to do. I want to talk about improvements from this year because I think I did a lot this year in a lot of ways. My life like changed drastically. That would be a podcast episode hopefully next year when something big is coming. Something big is coming. I like I've said on this podcast from day one, I hate telling my hard times when there's no solution. I hate talking to people about it because I don't think it's necessary to talk about like hard times. I feel I can like when I have like a solution, it's better to like have a solution and then tell people like you have this problem at this time. But if you don't have any solution, like pouring your problems to another person, in my opinion, is not cool. But you can tell me your problems because I love listening to other people's problems. But at the same time, I don't. But I think you should like talk to people in real life. I'm saying like on the internet, do not like. I would never come on the internet and talk about my problems. But I would talk to people in like real life if I know you personally, like family or like some friends. Not everybody, but yeah. But this year, I've like really improved in a lot of ways. I think I improved in my podcasting skill, and like I've improved in my like writing as well. I've also improved in like my reading and like my book choices. I think I have like a voice for books now. Like I know what I like. I know what I would not read. I in like the past I was like reading anything that anybody said, but now I think I know the what I like. And I'm not saying like I'm only gonna read forever what I like, but I know that I want to like read as a form of entertainment and not reading as a form of a way to gain knowledge. I for the longest time I thought you could only read for knowledge, but I've noticed that I enjoy reading for entertainment. Yeah, I read smut sometimes. I've never read smut, but like the book I got this week, it's called The Paris Apartments. That's the book I read this week. And that book had two smut scenes and I wanted to shoot myself in the leg. But I did not know. I swear I was in Sainsbury's and I was like shopping around and I said, "Oh, that's a really good book." And like the blurb at the back was like really good. So I was like, I'm gonna read this book. And I read the book and it was really good. It was unexpected. I swear, like the end of the book, I thought the dad like was actually on a trip, but the dad was killed by his daughter. I don't even think she's his daughter, but he adopted her. I know. See, let me explain something to you. The reason why I spoil books in this podcast is because you are not gonna read it. Because I don't read every single book that, and I like when someone spoils the book for me because I'm like, I really don't care. I don't care enough to like get to the end of a book, like without knowing what's gonna happen. That's why with that book I was like really frustrated because I was like, oh my god, if someone had told me this is gonna happen, I'd have like, oh, I'd have expected it. But it's a really cool book. But I've like improved in like my reading taste. I've improved in my taste as well. I think I've like streamlined and like really refined my taste in things, and like I've improved in like talking to people. I think I've like really gotten a hang of like I don't have a lot of friends yet, but I think next year, like with this like theme actively choosing, I think I will get a lot more like platonic relationship and build from there because I think something big is coming, something big is coming. But at the same time, I think I've also improved in my presentation of myself to every single person because I think for the longest time I was like strictly myself, and like, and this is gonna be an episode in 2026. It's gonna be a very serious episode in 2026. More than anything, I think I improved really in a very unnoticeable way. I don't think a lot of people would notice what changed if you are not actually me. And I think that's what the goal for this theme was. I think I wanted it to be internal and not like outwardly and like external. And I think next year's one is the same as well. I think it's very like person based. I've not spoken about like my eating problems a lot on here, but like I've improved that. I don't want to like jinx it. That's why I've not spoken about it for like a long time, but I have really improved my like eating problems. Now I have like set meal and like like I said, I think I said this on the podcast. I told you I wanted like to eat the same meal every single day, and I found a way to like eat the same meal every single day, but now I have like the same ingredients, but I switch it up depending on the week. So I'm so excited about that. I think I will talk about that like in September next year because I started like controlling and like improving my food intake September this year. On my TikTok, it says my TikTok bio says food sober since 14th of September 2025, and that's the day like I chose to like stop this food problem. I could not stop it for the longest time. I think that's the day like I actively and consciously chose to reduce the demonic power of food. Like I said last year, I know that we need food for sustenance, but if I was like, if I really did not need food, I would not consume it. I don't like it. Not in the sense that I don't like the flavor, but like I don't like the feeling I get when I eat food. But like recently, I've been like really enjoying my meals and like really enjoying like the experience of like cooking the same food and eating the same food. Like this solution is truly the best, and I will like share it hopefully next year sometime. Also, with improvements this year, I really failed in a lot of aspects as well. I feel that the relationships I involved myself in, like every single relationship I've spoken about in my whole life has been platonic, but I failed in those relationships because I never wanted to become friends with like an ugly. Even if I was an ugly, I wanted to become friends with like cool people. But not, I'm not like that anymore. But like earlier this year, like there was like three people that wanted to be my friend, but I rejected them because I was like, this is not the kind of friend I want. So yeah, I used to record this podcast for myself. For the first 3 months of the podcast, I recorded this podcast solely for my later self and me hearing it in the future and me like listening to my past thoughts when I'm like in my 80s or whatever, or whenever someone listens to this or someone I know, blah blah blah. After the third month of the podcast and I announced the podcast officially on my Instagram, and then I used to go to my old church, one of my leaders that I follow in the podcast and started like talking to me about the podcast. I started imagining talking to this person whenever I was recording the podcast, truly. So like there were a lot of things that I switched and like worded differently that I feel next year you're gonna like notice like a very different like style of like podcasting. I still think it has like its residue because I was with that person for like a year and a half of this podcast, and I've only gotten over that person and that relationship with that person. It's not like it's a platonic relationship, but I've only gotten over that platonic relationship and the breakup of that platonic relationship in the last couple of months because I felt for the longest time that I could restore that relationship. And then I was texting that person a couple months ago, and I noticed that the way I felt whenever I texted that person, I did not feel the same feeling of wanting approval from this person or wanting approval from the space that this person created for both of us, if that makes sense. Hopefully I can become myself again. And that's why I like the theme for next year called Actively Choosing. The fact that I took a break off Instagram for like 5 months this year, and I noticed that when I went back, every single person I followed, I don't really care for these people. Like these people are my actual friends. I know I went to like the same churches as these people, but like I don't think I align with these people in a lot of things. I think these people are deeply disturbed in a lot of ways, and I think the smoothest way I could like be with these people is just be casual and like make more friends and like slowly like delete every single one of them from my socials. I don't want to go back to I've gone back to 50 10 like 4 times now, and I don't want to go back to 50 anymore. So 50 followers, because I think 50 of my followers are like not real people, because I don't know what I really don't know how to I've unfollowed a lot of people and 50 still shows up there. So yeah, whatever. I have 90, by the way. I don't have a lot of followers on Instagram. I only have 40 people that watch me, like monitoring spirits. But I was talking about like God's plan for our lives, and on the Substack, I said a lot of people like talk about their life not going well and their life not succeeding, or them not succeeding because that's not the path God like planned for them for their lives. And I think every single time something went wrong in my family, every single time something went wrong with people I knew, like people always said, "Oh, just rely on God's plan. Maybe that's not God's plan for you." I think that like puts you in a headspace and in a space where you believe that, oh, if only I follow God's plan, then God's plan that He has already like ordained, and you can like plead ignorance. You can say, I'm not like a willing agent. Like I don't have agency. Like God owns my life. God is like the creator of my life, so He has the plan. The reason why my life is like is because I did not follow God's plan for my life, and I think that's like living a life where you choose passively, where you choose with a very vague understanding of what your priorities are, or like what your goals are. And I think a lot of people feel their goals needs to be aligned with the church in a lot of ways. I was saying this to myself and I was like, oh my God, I like with my issue that's happening right now that I'm gonna speak about next year. Like a lot of my aunties were like, that it's God knows best. God knows best. And I'm like, girl, no, God does not know best. Like this is that's why I say in my head, I don't just like arguing, but like in my head I'm like, girl, God doesn't know best. Like there is a reason why this happened, and I know the reason why this happened. Like I don't want to like put the blame on somebody else, like a creator that was man made. But like yeah, that's all I have to say. And if you want to like read my full like thoughts, it's on the Substacks, baby. It's on the Substack. Passive living leads to regret. I truly do believe that when you passively live, and I'm not joking, like I felt this when I downloaded Instagram again, because without downloading Instagram, I'd have never come up with this topic. But I felt like abject regret when I saw every single person I once knew and like once performed for. I wanted Cyrus to see me as Cyrus's Cyrus. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I wanted Cyrus to have the Clinton that Cyrus wants Clinton to be. And I know I said this in last week's episode. I wanted myself to be the ideal version of what whoever I knew back then wanted the ideal version of me to be. So I played up to every single person's individually, and like if in a group setting I like knew how to stay malleable. I was like a clay that anybody could sculpt to whatever they wanted to make out of me. And I speak about like the church I went to, and I speak about like the fact that I believe that the church was like the one and only place, because I was that was reinforced a lot when I was like younger. And then I noticed that when I came here, like the same thing that Sally back home was saying was what Andrew here was saying. And I was like, oh, if Sally is saying that back home and I'm here in a different like continent, Andrew is saying this, this must be right. And I'm the one who's wrong, and I'm the one who has the problem. So I need to like get everything up, get like change things up and follow this so-called Bible and this so-called book, so like I could like save my soul and go to heaven. I'm not trying to be rude, but like, and I think a lot of that has like like led to like regret in my life, because I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like a 79-year-old man, and I have no friends, no, like I have nobody, like not nobody, but like I don't have a community of people. I see people on the internet, and I'm not trying to like compare, but I see people on the internet and I'm like, all these people like have like a sense of community, and like I've deprived myself from like a community for so long, because I believe that. And on the podcast, on the Substack, I also say this, I believed that I was going to find my community in that church, but at the end of like my relationship at that church, I knew I was never going to find my community. And I remember the day I realized I was not going to I did not find my community with those group of people, and I'm not saying those group of people are good or bad, but the day I realized that I would never find a community in that church was the day a guy from that church said, oh, we are all gonna do life together. And I saw in the back of my mind like the Raven Simone vision. I literally saw myself in a white room alone, no one in sight, and I was like, that's what my life is gonna end up like. And I never like put like, I never, when he said it, because he always said it, I never like, I just like played, like said it, like let him say it, but like in my head I was like, I don't think that's what my life is gonna look like. I think I'm gonna like be solely alone, because I could not see any of those people past that year, and like I stopped talking to most of those people like that year, but for a totally different reason. But yeah, I saw myself, I was like, if I continue existing with these people and continue like hanging out with these people, I will become a shell of myself and like be alone for the rest of my life in a white room. And I'm not saying I love white, but like I was just envisioning like a tiny bed in a white room, like trying to like mold myself to whatever Zion, for example, says. And I think when you live that way, you harbor a lot of like regret in your life. And I think if you're like younger, on my Substack, I also said this, I feel if you're younger, you should use my life as an example to not be sad and pretend to be happy because the person you are observing, or like the person you're with, wants you to be happy. I think you should feel whatever you want to feel, and like whatever you want to like, and believe whatever you want to believe. And I think there is like some, like I feel when, if you're like super duper like lonely when a lot of people are around you, then that's a problem. That's a problem. Those people, one or two, like you can do with two people. And I think this is an excuse, but like I always thought, I know I feel like I'm contradicting myself, but I don't know how to explain it. It's just the truth. I always thought I would never make it past 18, and I know I've said this on this episode, not this episode. I know I've said this on this podcast multiple times, but I always thought I would not make it past 18. So I was like, there's no need to like plan for the rest of forever, because I'm not going to be here forever. But the reason why I'm saying I'm contradicting myself, because 10 or 20 minutes ago, I told you I started this podcast so I could listen to my past self speak for however long. Sorry. I started this podcast so when I'm 80, I could listen to my past self. That's what I said. But at the same time, when I started this podcast, I was already 21. So I had already lived a long life. Yeah, when I started this podcast, I had already lived like a long time, and I think I was like coming off of like that me dying at 18 like mindset. So but like for the longest time, I thought when I was like 13, when like it started like becoming prominent, I thought hopefully I die at 18 so I don't have to like ever address any of this so I can like just die in peace and like nobody. I can't really see myself existing as an adult. I never like envisioned it. Like the same way I told you I could not see myself with those people. I never could imagine myself as an adult with like a house. I could not see myself in like I could not envision myself in that like space. I thought some grave illness was gonna come when I was 17 and then I would like die at 18. So I like whenever anyone asked me what I wanted for my life, I was like, a shoe. I never said that. I just like played off that question because I never knew what I wanted to do in my life. And I know that's like a normal feeling like a few people go through in their life. But like mine was like very different because I thought, I hope you get what I mean. And I was like, oh my God, I think if I exist, I'll have to be for the rest of my life. So I was like, no. Oh yeah. So this is gonna also be an episode next year when I talk about it. But I never planned my life past the 18. So like every single year I thought, okay, this would be the year, or like this would be the year, or this would be the year. I'm here, babies. I'm still here. So it's okay. I also want to give solutions in this episode because recently, where's my mind has been giving solution. I saw this video of this guy asking, how are people going about their life not caring about what other people think? And I know you would notice this like theme. I've said this a lot in this episode. You can never know what other people think about you. You can only know what you think other people think about you. And I think that's like a beautiful bow to like wrap up this whole episode. I could never know what Sally thought about me. I could only exist as what I thought Sally thought I should be. So I think even if I wanted to be the person for Sally, I would have still felt different to Sally because that's not what Sally wants 100%, because I can never know what Sally wants because there's no communication between me and Sally, for example. I really enjoyed that like answer to that question, and I've like recently been noticing myself like exist finally as a human being. Also, this is like a big like quality I had when I still like kind of live a passive life, but like this was like a very big quality I had when I lived like a more prominent passive life, was when I had two choices. I know I did an episode early this year, or like earlier this year, like maybe in September, and I spoke about not early, like the mid months of this year, and I spoke about not choosing still being a choice. Whenever I noticed that whenever I was like faced between two like points, I rarely acknowledged one or the other. I always never chose. And I thought never choosing was like a good choice. But I noticed and I realized this year that not choosing is the worst thing you could possibly do, because you're not learning anything new from not choosing. You're like remaining in the same boat by not choosing. But if you choose one or the other and you succeed or fail, at least you knew that, yeah, you should do that or not do that, if that makes sense. And you can learn from it as well. Lastly, on my notes on passivity, the avoidance of shame is a big component of a passive life. Like if you don't want to ever feel shame, if you don't want to like feel anxiety over something or be anxious, just want to live with go with the flow. Whatever happens, let everyone is swimming like a fish. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. That's my shit right there. Hey. But like, yeah, I think when you avoid shame about the human condition, every single person feels anxiety, but some more than others. But like, yeah, I think shame is really cool. I think next year, like, shame is gonna be like a big trend. I don't know. I've been like seeing a lot of people talk about shame, and I think 2026 is gonna be a very chuggy year. So get your calendars ready. This podcast is never gonna be chuggy because I know, who knows, who knows. I don't have to like, I don't know. Maybe I'll actively choose to be shameful next year. And lastly, in an active life, you don't always need to be entertained. You can be bored. If you're actively living, you should notice the moments when you're bored. And I'm so appreciative of like the last week. I've noticed moments of boredom. I started crocheting like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I noticed, oh, I'm so bored of this, but I just love the boredom that it brings. And whenever I crochet, I listen to a podcast or listen to a YouTube video, an educational YouTube video, and it just cements everything for me. And sometimes I've not like done a lot of this, but like I crochet with no sound, no noise. And I just feel it brings me back to humanity. It makes me feel like a human. It's like touching grass. It's like touching grass, yeah. Yeah. And if you want to like read all of my thoughts on, I wish I did like a like whole substack on this whole topic, but like I did it for only 2 points on this episode, and the rest has been spoken about. But that's all that has been on my notes. Like I said, this week I read the Paris Apartment, and this is a really cool book. I don't think anything like significant happened this week. So yeah, I don't have any predictions for anything. Okay, I want to give one prediction. I think this year's Christmas like decorations. Okay, now that's a critique. That's not a prediction. I was gonna say I think this year's Christmas decorations look really bad, but I don't want to say that because that's like a critique. That's not a prediction. Let me think of a prediction. I have not like filled my prediction like notes for like months now, so like I don't know anything. I don't know any predictions I could like tell you. But oh yeah. I had a prediction yesterday. I forgot I had this prediction yesterday. I think 2026 is going to introduce like the skinny jean, but I think 2027 is going to like establish the skinny jean. Yeah, that's what I think. And I think brown is still in. Everybody should keep on wearing brown. I've gone back to black, but I got like a sweater from like a charity shop the other day, and it was like 28 pounds, and I was like, why is it so expensive? Like, I've never gotten a sweater that expensive, but I noticed that on the website it was like 130, but I was like, girl, like you'd have sold it for like 10 pounds. But I was too ashamed not to like I was so ashamed to drop the sweater because I was like, oh my god, like there's so many people in this shop, and I did not check the price because I was checking the price of the other ones and they were like £5, £10. So I was like, oh, this one's also cheap, but I never knew. I just like grabbed the most expensive thing in that shop. Maybe not the most expensive thing in that shop, but like a very expensive item in that shop. Yeah, because it's a charity shop. Like if I was like in like the actual shop, I'd be like, okay, I'm expecting to like spend a lot of money, but like no, in like a charity shop, I only spend like tops £20. But this was like £28. That's a lot of money. Truly, that's all that has been on my mind. I'll speak to you next week. Bye.